What was banned at your school and why? Viewer edition. Story 1. I remember when I was still at primary school, we had a library where books weren't classified. No fantasy section, no history section. It was a jumble of books ordered by a lettering/alphabetic system. When I was a second year, I'd issued a book that contained rather strong language. There were cuss words, suggestive sarcasm, sadistic themes, and detailed gore throughout the book portrayed in the form of kids' reading material. I found it absolutely hilarious despite not understanding the majority of the topics. Don't know why a book like this was in a kid's library. I guess the teachers misunderstood the cover, though I cannot see how. At the end of the week, the teacher was asking kids if they'd like her to read their books to the class on Library Day, a day dedicated to reading. I, being completely oblivious, offered for her to read mine. Within the first few sentences, she was horrified. She took the book off me, told me the book fairy must have put the wrong book on the shelves, and then alerted the librarian and staff of the quote-unquote vulgar material. This all resulted in the whole library and books within it to be given a classification. An announcement was later in assembly about this, but no reason was given. Only a few friends of mine and I knew I was to blame. LOL. So, your school banned unclassified books or not having a system to classify books. You know, I feel like we're going to read a lot of stories about dumb stuff that schools have banned, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of a net positive because the old system that your school was doing it was bad. Story 2. We went through 3 main office principals when I was in high school. The last wouldn't even show up to student government meetings when invited. Every time they tried to change the role, there was a protest. Class of '91 here, by the way. Hats, colors, Walkman, just flat out ignore that one. There was talk about more changes coming, but we made a lot of noise. The year after I graduated, everything changed. Only seniors were allowed to leave campus. Nobody follows this rule. You have to stay in the lunchroom at lunchtime. No coats during class. Wear your IDs. The list goes on. It's like they gave up and figured they had a cutoff point where they could act and jumped on it. More recently, the change in passing time from 5 minutes to 3 minutes and restricted the number of times you can go to your locker. My kids were happy to be out of there. I have fond memories of high school. They all hated it. They turned our smoking patio into a parking lot too and did away with detention. There's a ticket and a fine for everything. I'm glad I went to school when I did. I don't know how I feel about schools fining kids. That doesn't seem like something that should be within their authority to do. Even detention sometimes feels a little bit ridiculous to me, but fining kids? No, stop that. Don't encourage people to no, I hate that. Story 3. I have a story. I don't remember what my school called it, and I was the one to blame for getting it banned. Basically, a bunch of kids would kick in someone else's knee and see the other kid's knee buckle down as a joke. It was very common in my high school. Someone saw that I was having a really bad day and thought the way to cheer me up was to do this trick on me and everything would be fine. However, I've had surgery on my knee twice, so forcing it to go in when it shouldn't did not go very well. Instead of making me feel better, it just made me drop my other knee crying and have me go to the hospital again to have my knee fixed. When I came back, it turns out the kid got a month worth of ISS and was also put on an insult list, probably spelled that wrong, and the game has been banned from the school. Great. I honestly felt bad for the guy because he was only doing it because he saw that I was having a really crappy day and he was trying to make me feel better. Really wish I saw him coming sooner so I could stop him before anything worse happened. Story 4. Mine banned leggings, jeggings, and yoga pants. By that time, 3/4 of my pants were either leggings or yoga pants. I find jeans uncomfortable, though they were all black or dark gray. Never got in trouble despite one of my deans supposedly being a huge stickler, and I was in their office a couple times a year. Also, supposedly unnatural hair colors were banned, but for my first 3 years I saw an upperclassman whose hair was always like bubblegum pink. Though the stupidest was that marching band didn't count for PE credit, but it did count as one of the 7 classes you were allowed to take, with the regular band you were already a part of counting for another. Oh, and our scheduling was weird, so like in one semester I was done with all my classes for the day at 11:30 a.m. and I only had 2 that day. But to others, I had straight 7:30 to 3:30 with no breaks for lunch. Yes, you were not guaranteed lunch and you had to be on campus between 9:30 and 2:20, or between your first period starting and your last period ending. Thank God most of our teachers let us eat during class and we were allowed laptops and phones. Story 5. We had a lot of things that were banned at my old high school. Piercings, men with long hair, beards, unnatural hair color, water bottles, different types of backpacks, the list goes on. The worst one in my opinion is the ban on personal electronic devices. I say ban in quotations because it wasn't technically banned, but the requirement to bring them was ridiculous. At the beginning of the year, everyone in my high school got brand new MacBooks from the school to use during class. They made us sign a contract basically stating, hey, don't try and search up anything not safe for work, and don't try and circumvent the security system, and don't break the laptop. However, afterwards, they gave us another contract regarding personal devices. It basically stated that if we wanted to bring in a personal device such as a phone or laptop, we were required to install the school's security software onto our device so they could have 100% control over the device, or we could not bring it to school. The software itself allowed them full administrator access and remote access to your computer, and allowed them to remotely add/remove files, programs, and wipe your device without warning. As far as I know, nobody follows it anymore because a ton of parents got mad over it, but it's technically still in place. Good lord, that list at the beginning of all the things that your school banned, like, where did you go to school exactly? Did you happen to see Kevin Bacon dancing outside of it ridiculously? Because your school sounds messed up. What the hell? Story 6. A high school in Elmont, Texas banned girls from having short hair. A girl came back from summer break with 1-inch spiked hair and was suspended from school until it grew back. She sued the school for sexual discrimination and won several $100,000. Exhibit A of the trial was a picture of the female superintendent with the exact same hairstyle, except the superintendent's hair was dyed bright blue. The reason the student's hair was so short was that she had lost her hair over the summer from chemo treatment for cancer. The lawsuit got national attention and the superintendent got fired from her $350,000 job. The rule on girls' hair length was scrapped, and the only restriction was that it could not be dyed wild colors. I'm sorry, even if that girl didn't have chemo treatment and everything, not allowing girls to have short hair is wildly stupid. What a terrible rule. If I was a parent, I would be furious. Oh, God. Schools, stop telling kids what they can look like, especially based on gender, you a-holes. Story 7. Sometimes things will be banned for justifiable reasons, or at least understandable ones. There were 2 middle schools in my hometown that banned carrying backpacks to class after a lethal school shooting. I attended in the mid-2000s, but this was some years prior. However, the one high school in town that did not have this rule, as the school did not have lockers, so the students had to carry their bag. Why no lockers? To stop students selling drugs at school. Story 8. Backpacks at lunch. I was in high school. Some kids would go around selling candy, school supplies, etc. out of their backpacks to get lunch money. No big deal, almost everyone got approval from the staff to do so. Emphasis on the almost. There was one guy who was selling, let's just say, less than savory items out of his backpack. So they banned all of them for a week, then rescinded the ban when said student got expelled. Story 9. Cell phones. In my sophomore year of high school, my school started doing a personal device policy since they want to start doing more digital learning in the classroom. Included in the list of approved devices were cell phones as long as you didn't text, use social media, or anything else that wasn't appropriate in class. Come my junior year, phones were banned. Why? Turns out the senior class the year before abused the hell out of the policy since it was going to be their only year in high school where they could have their phones in class. Thanks, class of 2015. You know, back when I went to school, they did not prohibit students from having cell phones. That was totally fine. But that's because when I was in high school, nobody had cell phones. I did, and I think one other person in school that I knew of did, because it wasn't really a thing, and it was big. My cell phone was large enough that I could have fought someone with it. Story 10. My school was nuts with bans. 1. Proxy servers. We would use a website to get around the firewall to access YouTube and MySpace. A friend of mine and I would test out, and they would last a few days at the most. The school had a lecture on it and said they knew who did it, and if we turned ourselves in, the punishment would be less severe. They were bluffing and hoped to get us to turn ourselves in. Though if they really wanted to figure it out, it would not have been very hard. Story 11. I have 3 actually. 1, in 3rd grade, we were banned from playing any games at recess because 2 boys were kicking each other and got hurt. They found a group of kids playing house and they got written up. 2, in the high school I'm in now, eating in class is banned because this one kid had an edible right in front of his teacher and then ended up having to go to the hospital. 3, 2 girls were doing it in the bathroom and my teacher walked in on it, so now each class has a designated bathroom time, so we all have to get up and walk to the bathroom. If you don't have to go, you stand by the lockers. If you do, you stand outside the bathroom and go one at a time. Story 12. Alma Mater Jacket. Basically, in 2nd grade, students would voluntarily gather some money to make this jacket, and each jacket for each year is different in color and design that are distinct to the specific grade. It was banned after our school got involved in a horrible school brawl that killed one person and ruined our school reputation. What made the school ban those jackets was because the students that were involved in the school brawl were wearing them as their school identity. The reason was a bit stupid, but cost heavily on everyone in school. Male students were targeted by other school students and terrorized other students from our school. Story 13. At my middle school, my school put a ban on wearing belts. Like, what the hell were they thinking? We were gonna whip each other with a belt? It ended up with half the kids at my school who actually needed a belt to keep up their jeans either 1, held up their pants all day, or 2, wear a belt and get dress coded. Luckily for me, my jeans fit perfectly, and I got to sit back and laugh at the kids who were trying to keep up their pants. Who is coming up with these rules? Oh, someone, someone was getting whipped with a belt, so we banned belts. You idiots. Seriously, whatever teacher or counselor, principal, whatever, was just like, we just banned belts. How did everyone else in that room not go, that's a dumb idea. That's really bad. Like, so bad, you should feel ashamed for thinking of that as a solution. Story 14. My school banned hoop earrings. We had major fighting going on at school the prior year, and I was told that one time a pair of girls got into a fight while one was wearing hoop earrings. You know what happened next? You don't? Well, the hoop earring was grabbed and torn straight off in the midst of the fight. I don't know if the story is true, but they banned hoop earrings the following year. Story 15. My school banned students from being on the 2nd floor during the breaks. The reason being, reducing the amount of teachers needed to supervise the break area and to encourage students to go outside. Well, now 3 instead of 2 teachers stay upstairs to keep students from entering the 2nd floor, and the 1st floor is so overcrowded that they doubled the amount of teachers on that floor. They don't even allow us on the 2nd floor when it's negative 10 degrees outside. Story 16. Anything that covered your wrist, like silly bands or fingerless gloves, because for about a year in my middle school it became fashionable to cut your wrists. This was during the height of the emo phase at my school. The rule wasn't enforced on students like me who weren't considered at high risk of cutting. The school had a pretty strict dress code on everything except accessories, so people had some fun with it as long as it wasn't offensive. Thankfully, the craze died after a little less than a school year. Story 17. At my elementary school, there were 3 things. 1. These canned drinks were banned because kids kept bending them up after drinking them and stabbing each other. 2. No eating contests / fast eating, and there's an adult constantly walking around watching because a girl choked on a hot dog and died. I wish I were kidding. 3. No silly bands, rubber bands shaped as animals and stuff, because kids were literally beating the crap out of each other for them and dealing them like drugs. Story 18. Backpacks. The nurses, which are lovely by the way, somehow thought that wearing backpacks between classes was risking kids getting their spines bent. We come to school, put our bags in our lockers, take the stuff we need, and then never touch the backpack again until the bell rings. Some kids tried to start a petition, but it failed horribly. Here's the thing, I wouldn't really have a problem with banning taking, backpacks and stuff to class, but you absolutely know that the schools that are banning backpacks are also not giving students enough time between classes to stop at their lockers to get what they need before going to their next class. When I went to school, we weren't really supposed to have backpacks in class, but we had enough time to go to our locker and get to the next class. That is not the case anymore for a lot of schools, and it's ridiculous. You get to pick one or the other. Story 19. The word Dita was banned in my elementary school. It was a code word for idiot that me and my friend made up, and we go around calling people Ditas. I guess a teacher heard us explaining to a friend what it meant, and the word was banned. Edit. I forgot to mention the funniest part. After that got banned, me and my friends decided to use chicken as a new code word for idiot. It lasted a few months before it was banned too, since we used it like, you stupid chicken. Story 20. A local school banned students wearing blue because it was gang-related. This is a farming town in southern Minnesota. I told a relative of a student to wear it anyways as a form of nonviolent protest. I also pointed out that the school itself would be in trouble for sporting the American flag. The ban was dropped. Hey gangs, could you just do all of us a favor? Could each gang take, every single primary color and also black and white and everything? We need the whole spectrum of colors to be represented by a gang. And that way schools have to stop doing dumb crap like this because you can't ban every color, can ya? Story 21. At one of my old schools, the teachers all decided to ban Among Us. Not the video game, but a real-life version all the kids made to play at recess. Since it was Among Us, all of the kids used the word kill, but the teachers didn't like us using it because it was at school, so they made us use the word tag, but a few weeks later they banned the game entirely. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.